Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a seriously mind-bending journey into the nature of identity. We're going to ask some fundamental questions about what it actually means to exist over time. And to do that, we'll use a few of history's most famous thought experiments to pretty much shatter everything you thought you knew about yourself.
Okay, let's dive right in by challenging your own intuition. Let me ask you something. Are you the exact same person you were yesterday? What about 10 years ago? To figure this out, we're going to tie your personal identity to a centuries-old maritime mystery that philosophers have literally debated for millennia. Picture this. It's Plutarch's foundational paradox. The mythical hero Theseus returns from Crete, and his legendary ship is preserved by the Athenians as a monument. But, as it ages, the rotting wooden planks are gradually removed and replaced with fresh timber. Over a long enough timeline, every single piece of that ship has been swapped out. So, if absolutely zero original material remains, is it still the Ship of Theseus?
But Plutarch takes it a step further to really scramble our brains. What if someone secretly gathered up all those discarded, rotting original planks and completely reassembled them in a dry dock? Now we have two ships. This bifurcated scenario forces us to make an incredibly tough choice. Does identity live in a continuous history of form and function, the ship that never stopped sailing, or does it live in the original physical matter that was completely rebuilt?
The Enlightenment thinker Thomas Hobbes perfectly captured this exact tension. He argued that we really have to distinguish between what a thing is made of versus how it's structured. You have the sameness of substance, meaning the actual physical material components, versus the sameness of form, which is how those parts are organized and functioning. If the substance completely changes, can the form somehow carry the identity? To solve the ship puzzle, philosophers basically divide into two major camps. First, you have endurantists. They believe an object exists wholly at each present moment, which makes changing parts a real struggle to logically explain. Perdurantists, on the other hand, view objects as these temporal worms extending through space-time. To a perdurantist, the original ship and the repaired ship aren't a paradox at all. They're just different temporal stages of one giant, four-dimensional object unfolding over time.
Okay, let's bring this back to you. Because just like that ship, your physical form is constantly being replaced. In fact, it takes approximately 7 to 10 years for the vast majority of the atoms in your physical body to be entirely swapped out. Cells die, new ones are born. You are, quite literally, a walking, breathing Ship of Theseus.
Since you're biologically in this state of perpetual material flux, we rely on biological endurantism to explain why you aren't just a totally new person every decade. It's all about functional continuity. The fact that your heart keeps beating, your lungs keep breathing, and your organs maintain their overall organization is what provides a really strong case for your persistent identity, even as your cells completely turn over.
Realizing the inherent flaws of relying on biological matter for identity, the philosopher John Locke stepped in and radically shifted the focus from the body to the mind. He introduced what's now known as Locke's memory theory. He basically argued that your physical body is practically irrelevant to your true self. Instead, your memories are the glue of your identity. You are the same person over time simply because your consciousness and your memories are continuous.
Locke argued that identity exists purely in consciousness, in whatever substance this thinking is or however it is clothed. The absolute crucial point he's making here is that if you lose all your memories, you literally cease to be the same person. Even if your physical body remains perfectly intact, without that continuous thread of memory, the original you is entirely gone.
But wait, there is a glaring loophole here, and Thomas Reid's brave officer paradox brilliantly breaks Locke's strict rule. Imagine this timeline. A boy is flogged. Later, as a brave officer, he remembers that flogging and he wins a battle. Much later, as an old general, he remembers winning the battle, but he has completely forgotten being flogged as a boy. By Locke's logic, the general is the officer and the officer is the boy. But because the general doesn't remember the flogging, the general is not the boy. The chain of identity logically contradicts itself. To fix this logical nightmare, modern philosopher Derek Parfit proposed a much more nuanced view: psychological continuity. Parfit solved the officer paradox by suggesting identity isn't some absolute all-or-nothing thing. Instead, it's a spectrum. It relies on overlapping chains of psychological connectedness, meaning you are strongly connected to who you were yesterday, but perhaps only weakly connected to who you were at age 5. It's the overlap that actually matters.
All right, let's really break reality for a second and push this framework to the absolute limit with a classic sci-fi thought experiment. Imagine a teleporter that scans your body, completely destroys the original, and then reconstructs an exact physical and mental replica of you on Mars. The big question is, did you survive the trip, or did you die on Earth? This scenario pits material continuity directly against psychological continuity.
We really have to look at this impartially here. Depending on the philosophical rulebook you choose, the teleporter is either the ultimate travel device or a horrifying murder machine. Materialists, they'd say you definitely died, and the Mars replica is a completely new person. Proponents of psychological continuity would argue you totally survived because your memories and consciousness transferred perfectly. And perdurantists, they'd say the Earth and Mars versions are just different temporal stages of your four-dimensional life unfolding across the universe.
Now let's make it even messier. What happens if the teleporter glitches? Instead of destroying the original, it accidentally creates two perfect replicas of you, both with identical memories and personalities. This duplication scenario creates a massive problem because both of these replicas have an equal psychological claim to being the original you.
And this glitch perfectly illustrates the difference between two extremely vital concepts: numerical identity and qualitative identity. The two replicas are qualitatively identical, meaning they share your exact traits, your memories, your physical makeup. But they cannot be numerically identical because they are now two distinct entities existing in different spaces. You just can't be one single unique person in two places at once.
Let's try one more scenario. If your organic brain is transplanted into an entirely different biological body, who is the resulting person? Are they the donor of the brain or the donor of the body? Most people intuitively feel that the person follows the brain. This strongly suggests that when push comes to shove, we inherently value psychological continuity over physical flesh. The new body is really just seen as a vehicle for the mind.
But listen, extreme sci-fi isn't actually required to break our sense of self. Real life does it too. The gradual erosion of memories through severe dementia, the natural process of aging, or even radical therapeutic interventions that completely alter someone's core values. These real-world scenarios force us to ask at what exact point someone ceases to be who they were. The line is incredibly blurry.
To kind of soothe this existential dread, philosophers like Alistair MacIntyre and Paul Ricoeur developed the concept of narrative identity. This theory suggests that you are simply the sum of your experiences, woven into a continuous, ever-evolving story. Even as your cells die and your memories fade, the narrative thread of your life provides a framework. You are the author and the protagonist of a story that makes sense of all these changes.
So where does that leave us? Ultimately, there is no single objective fact of the matter when it comes to personal identity. A healthy understanding of yourself likely requires a pluralistic balance. It's a dynamic interplay of your changing biology, your overlapping memories, and the ongoing, coherent story you tell about your life. It's not just one thing. It's all of these factors working together to create your sense of self.
Which brings us to the end of this explainer today, but really, just the beginning of your own questioning. Think about it. If your physical matter, your memories, and your stories are all in a constant state of replacement, who is the you that is observing all of this right now? I'll leave you with that final, provocative thought to ponder long after this is over.